Hey gang, it's JC and this is your daily dose for Wednesday, July 21st, 2010, a cooperative venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. Archives at the top of the page, Dave Murray, and also a way to subscribe to the audio of the Daily Dose on iTunes right there in the corner. Let's get going. The world is a safer place today. Lindsay Lohan is behind bars. They say she's down to 118 pounds. Hell, I've heard she's got sacks of coke that weigh more than that. Sarah Palin doesn't approve of her daughter's engagement to Levi Johnston. This whole thing is starting to sound like an Alaskan version of the old TV show Dallas. We can only hope that we come out of the shower and realize that the whole thing was a bad dream. That red-haired Russian chick, the spy who was sent back to her home country, Russia, and well, she's been offered now $1 million to do a porn flick. The people at TMZ have put together possible titles for the red-haired Russian spy's porn movie if she decides to take the $1 million. For example, James Bondage, North by North Breast, Screw Lies, Agent Cody Skanks, The Porn Identity, Dr. No means yes, Gold-Fingered, Lesbianage, and finally Double O. All right, the Emmys are coming up on Sunday, August 29th. Normally, that would not be a big deal. However, you've probably heard by now that both Tonight shows, the one with Conan and the one without Conan, the one with Jay Leno, both got nominated in two separate categories, where the Pussies at the Emmys yesterday announced that the award for Best Writing isn't even going to be carried by the television network, by NBC. They're going to do that, before the show. You'll never see it. However, if Conan does win in the Best Variety, Comedy, and Music category, that means he goes on television and gives his acceptance speech on the network that fired him. Start setting your DVRs right now. All right, when the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was concluded last week, there were people running around all over the internet going, lowest ratings in years, lowest ratings in years, ha-ha, lowest ratings in years. Well, yesterday they announced that the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was the #1 show for the entire week. And all that means is that overall viewing for all television happened to be down last week. Now, I'll tell you what is down is the concert business. It's off 15% compared to last year. All over the country, concerts are being canceled and rescheduled because of poor ticket sales. The top level artists like your Lady Gaga and your Taylor Swift and your J.D. Blackfoot, did that for the U-Man. Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, those acts are doing just fine. A woman in Fredericktown, Maryland, which is near where I used to live, just outside of Washington, D.C., goes into a Costco last week to buy dog food. She comes out and realizes that she left the windows rolled up on the car with the dog inside the car, and the dog is now dead. So she turns back around and goes back into the Costco to try to get her money back and return the dog food, and is dumb enough to tell people what happened, and she was immediately arrested. Sumner Redstone, I don't know if you caught this story here today. This is the guy who, oh my gosh, he's been in media management for years, and right now he runs and operates MTV, Comedy Central, BET, VH1, TV Land, Nick at Night, BET, the entire Paramount Pictures studio, all that stuff. Giant billionaire, megalomaniac type guy, controls hundreds of billions of dollars in media properties and has over the last many, many years, and is also 87 years old, and has somehow developed this obsession with some all-girl band full of teenagers, and was leaning on some of the people at his own networks to do a reality show about these girls so he could sit home and jerk off while the show was on. All right? So some reporter gets a hold of this story and runs it in a couple of the big newspapers. So now Sumner Redstone, 87-year-old shriveled up old guy, gets on the phone and he starts calling reporters wanting to know where their sources are, and just sort of says in passing, we don't want to kill him. We just want to talk to him. Well, the only problem is Sumner Redstone is so powerful. He's the sort of guy that, probably could have somebody killed. Anyhow, very, very bad publicity for this guy. And for all the talk there has been for so many years about irresponsible and dangerous radio on-air personalities, I can tell you some of the most dangerous, some of the most irresponsible people I have ever met in my life are the people who run broadcast facilities. First of all, half of the program directors are on the take. When you're driving along, you hear a song that sucks and you hear it being played over and over and over again. You wonder how that happens. It's because some program director is getting his nose packed by the record companies, and that's how that happens. Quid pro quo. The big bosses, the general managers, the guys who actually run radio and TV stations. I mean, I worked in Flint, and there was a guy I worked for who knocked up a fat girl who used to come in at night to do radio commercials and jingles and stuff, and then he used money from the radio station that he had embezzled to pay for the abortion. And he was run out. At the river, I worked for a guy who, when you'd say, hey, let's go to lunch, and you'd have to get in the car with him, and he had all these homemade signs on little popsicle sticks that he would hold up to flirt with girls who were walking around downtown in St. Louis, like, hey, good looking, where are you going, and stuff like that. We're driving with this guy. He's a grown guy in his 40s. There was a woman I worked for who, well, let's just see. Her mother shot herself and killed herself, committed suicide on the daughter's birthday. And the daughter was running radio stations and seemed to want to take out all of her internal pain on everybody who worked for her. She was lovely. I worked in Fort Wayne for a guy who drove around town in an Excalibur. All right, now an Excalibur sort of almost looks like the car that it would look like a car Liberace would be driving or something. It sort of looked like the car the ambiguously gay duo drives. This guy's driving around in Fort Wayne with this car. You know, where in Fort Wayne, if you had a car that had been manufactured in the last 25 years, you were a hot shot. His father had left him money, by the way. He didn't make the money on his own. I worked in another place in Indiana where the general manager was head over heels into this sort of this pop psychology of the 1970s called transactional analysis. And if you didn't get into it with him, it was almost like a cult. You were just treated as an outcast. I worked at a radio station here in town where if you were not a conservative, you were treated as a second-class citizen. And, of course, Bob Hyland, who ran KMOX for 100 years, was nuts, completely nuts, and died, I think it was $29 million in debt. And there are still people who run around calling him Mr. Hyland. Like, if you say, well, you know, when I worked for Bob Hyland, like suddenly he's going to jump out of the grave and go, what did you call me? Oh, brother, what are you going to do? Some of the most irresponsible, dangerous people I have ever met are the people running broadcast facilities. Once in a blue moon, you get a guy like Spencer Koch at Fox 2, who you love working for, and that's about it. All right, I told you yesterday that today we were going to give you the fastest rising baby names and also the 5 signs you shouldn't get back together with your ex, but we're out of time here, so we'll do that tomorrow on the Daily Dose. In the meantime, to sort of cool you off on another day where it's supposed to be, you know, feeling like almost 100 degrees outside and storms and all that, we go back to the Ice Bowl of 1967, and a young broadcaster, an up-and-comer by the name of Jack Buck, was there along with another up-and-comer by the name of Frank Gifford and the great Ray Scott. It was 15 degrees below zero at Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra, and you'll see that video. Maybe it'll cool you off a little bit. JC's Video Village, we go back to 1997 for my one-on-one interview with Madonna. Movie sort of stunk, but the interview was pretty good. Not necessarily the news this week is Bob Costas along with Tony LaRussa. JC's Eye Candy today. Well, Whitey's going into the Hall of Fame on Sunday in Cooperstown, and so I thought we'd pull out the rookie card of a guy who is in the St. Louis Cardinals organization right now, who might be the next guy with the St. Louis Cardinals jersey to go into the Hall of Fame. No clues, but it was 1963. That's all I'm telling you. You'll enjoy this one. Tomorrow, we'll get to that stuff we were supposed to get to today but didn't. And also, we'll tell you how men are trying to get around a bar in Florida that does ladies' night. You know, the girls get to drink for free and the guys don't, but the guys are trying to get around it, and we'll tell you how they are doing that. It's sort of a fun story. In the meantime, that's it. Your Daily Dose for Wednesday, July 21st, 2010. We'll talk to you tomorrow. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.